Anything on them? I did notice in the minutes, there's a couple of typos, but I don't think it really changes the intent of the minutes at all. Hearing none, motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Old business, loan, emergency loan program payment update.
Yeah, so August payments were due yesterday, Monday, the 15th. Front Porch had 4 payments to make and they paid in full as of the beginning of the month, so they are all paid. Riverboat Days is on their automatic payment schedule, so theirs came in right on time, so good to go unless there's any questions.
Is everybody else all paid up?
Yes,
Season stuff?
yep, now just Riverboat lands and their automatic payments, so don't foresee any issues there.
This is all for those COVID emergency loans. So it was
Oh,
Cabbage Patch, Front Porch,
Front Porch,
Riverboat
Riverboat
Lanes.
lands. Front-
Was Jesse's too?
No, Jesse's revolving loan. He wasn't
Revolving
doing
loan,
that.
yeah. Was there a fourth one?
Mark.
Lark, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, they paid right away.
All right,
Yes.
so we need no action taken on
No,
that, just an update. HVAC program update.
Okay, so we, based on feedback from the last meeting, I reached out to the state of Minnesota and indicated a request for basically the same amount of money that we got previously. And I requested more admin money. And I requested that for buildings of a square footage of more than 5,000 square feet, we could go up to 25,000. So they approved the 25,000, but not the extra administration funds. And so we have a verbal approval and they're preparing paperwork. And then Dave and Mary have done a great job marketing it. So we have applications in for the chocolate shop, Paul Bush Auto, who the Slipperies is interested, and sorry, Blaine got his in for his store and or office. And so where we're at, and then Robin has her bids in. And so where we're at is I'm going to try to have a phone call with Cora. She is another CETA staff member who specializes in grants. And last time, Tyler and I did all the environmental work, the approval from the state, and then she took over after that. So I'm going to try to train her on that aspect and start at least getting those SHPO approvals, which take 30 days to approve. Just kind of get those going. And so what I've been telling applicants is that we're just going to do it on a first come, first served basis. We're not going to rank them. Certainly, we found last time that not everyone got in their paperwork. So we'll just have Cora follow up and we won't start without complete paperwork. We'll continue to check that if it's relevant, they're paying their lodging tax. And so I think there's a lot of, based on, you got the feedback, excitement from the community. Because maybe they didn't know about it the first time or weren't able to meet our really quick deadline.
Because they heard about it.
They heard about it after the fact. And I still think we're hitting up, Mayor Durand asked me a good question, which is, it was a significant portion of our time. You know, is there still a need? Because maybe we don't proceed if there is a need, but it seemed like we're still hitting up these older downtown businesses, whether Mark who leaves or not, we still get some of those deferred maintenance taken care of.
To ask.
Yeah.
I was at the Eagle board meeting last night and the Eagle Center is in need of HVAC for some of those buildings they bought and they wonder if they qualify.
No, just because
For-profit.
it's for profit.
I
So
figured
that
but
came up, I
just
think,
put
for
my
the license
Common
bureau
The
too,
common
common closet.
In the license bureau.
The
Yeah.
license bureau.
Yeah.
But Broken Pebble wanted it, did you?
Yes, I did not, but we should just give them the application.
Yeah, it's-
He had questions with it.
yeah, I
Okay.
gave one to Barbara for veterinary clinic too.
Oh,
Evidently
good,
they
yeah,
have
that's
it.
an old building.
Yeah, no, she just bought it too, which is,
Yeah,
and the younger couple.
yeah, yeah.
I thought they.
Yeah, just because I worked in this world, we're qualifying businesses because we're trying to do commercial improvements and it's identified as a for-profit business. And I think from the city's perspective too, in a selfish way, enhancing businesses helps our tax base. I think when I was going over numbers with Wendy today, we saw an uptick in permits this year, and there were 9 commercial properties permits. So I was like, oh, maybe some of those were those HVAC improvements. I don't think it's gonna. Hopefully, we don't want it to affect their tax value necessarily, but just addressing that deferred maintenance. So
That's a huge deal.
yeah.
I talked with the license bureau, they're a for-profit business.
Okay.
But I don't think the building owner is, well, no.
She doesn't own the building, she
Yeah,
rents
she
the
doesn't
building.
own the
See,
building.
that's the problem I
but-
had with the, one of them too.
Yeah, and I talked to the building owner, and the building owner, didn't seem too interested in wanting to apply for it, because I think based on what she said, that it's not really a necessity for that building to get an HVAC update, so I just left it to those two to figure it out, and if something does come in, then that likely just means a conversation turn for, I guess, maybe the better if they do get an application in,
Mhm.
but who knows?
Yeah, so if you get questions on what's happening with my application, if they've submitted it, they're in line. And we're gonna continue to wait till we have official documentation from the state and kind of take a leisurely pace to doing the environmental reviews, and then we just need to do follow-up and get you off the ground.
Those
To
two
be
things-
honest, him and I are in the middle of budget season right now, so
Yeah.
once we get through some
Yeah,
meetings,
I'm
like, we'll
fine.
pick it up again. Yeah. But yes, it's exciting to offer that as a benefit to the community. And we did submit another admin draw, and we were able to fully pay for the bill that we had from CETA for chorus time, and then start requesting reimbursement for our time. And honestly, we didn't charge the state for benefits, but when we made a generous assumption about the number of hours, we are getting reimbursed for that time. So,
Good.
yeah.
Well, I think it's incredible. I mean, it's a big boost to all these buildings.
I think it puts us really in a good light with the business community downtown, because you give back something that they don't have to match.
Yeah.
It's a
and-
big deal. I mean, even when we did the $1,000 grants, that was huge. This is much bigger.
Right.
So I think this is really a good thing for the downtown. I thought a couple more businesses were interested, but I'll touch base with you.
Yeah, can you think of anyone else that came
The
through?
hairstyle, I don't know, the hairstyle shop.
Oh, they didn't
that's
come through.
They didn't come through, okay.
But again, like, it'll be rolling, it'll be out there, and what we discovered last time is people will drop out. And it's actually easier for us if we handle like 5 at a time, and we do all that work, we rest, and then, okay, let's take the next group, so. And then Anderson House, just to give everyone an update,
They're on
their
my list.
commercial kitchen restaurateur pulled out, but they still are planning on doing their project where they're gonna still do the build out for a restaurant to attract a different restaurateur. So
Smart,
supposedly,
because it's hard to get somebody to come in
Yeah.
if you're offering them nothing.
I guess.
yeah,
They don't have a kitchen.
so they still want to do an HVAC improvement for that restaurant and possibly the residences too.
Are they current in taxes now?
Yes.
Okay, so they're good to go.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for HVAC. I had one other item for old business, and that was kind of with respect to the revolving loan. And the answer to the question about Anderson House, I was wondering about the needs assessment. Have you started that for a request for more, or?
Yeah, I've started getting emails out to some, there's a list that, Kathy has put together of other businesses she's talked to about applying for future revolving loan funds or need for it. So I started getting some emails out this week and last week, and then people I haven't received anything back, I'll plan to follow up with phone calls.
Okay, great. We don't have it, it's not on it, we should probably have something about revolving loan as a placeholder on our agenda. So new business, childcare grant applications.
Yep.
An actionable item.
Yes, so as of right now, we have received.
Oh, we missed the housing committee update.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do housing committee.
No, well.
Did I miss it?
No, we're
Oh.
still in new business. childcare
Oh,
grant.
I'm sorry. Okay, that's me. Sorry.
Okay, so we were right, okay.
Okay, so, yeah, so we've gotten two people we expected, Cassie Jo Majeski and Haley Meyer. Both of which were previous applicants and approved $2,500 and just be sent for the full 9,000 this time around. I have sent out emails to the other ones, Deb Meyer, Haley Schuchard. Right, right. Yeah, Haley Schuchard, Deb Meyer. We got one, Haley Meyer, okay. And then Acosta Kruger is up in the air. I don't know if you want to maybe fill in a little bit more on this. It was a surprise to me when you mentioned it during our meeting 2 weeks ago, with the church in the window, is that correct?
Yeah, I was actually, our licensor had this insight. I was kind of bummed to hear it as well. So Acosta had reached out to Faith Lutheran Church, and I just said on behalf of the Child Care Committee, I would reach out and explain to Dave Knox, who's the pastor there, on behalf, so he could explain to council that this is not just a single individual kind of popping up and wanting to do childcare. This is kind of a result of a lot of community investment in seeing another facility exist, whether that's in home or not in home, and he appreciated that. And then she marched through the state's list and found that the egress, and I think that what they would be envisioning that they would use or convert classrooms to like Sunday school classrooms and that. And the windows aren't adequate, and I didn't understand the details, but that became a barrier for Acosta, and that's just a real bummer, because I think in the spirit of an improvement to a facility, there'd be a lot of will to get those windows fixed, in order for that to work.
But they
But
probably are inches off.
it's probably.
It's probably inches off.
Yeah, there is an
Or crank
aspect
outs instead of whatever sliders.
to the licensing requirement, but I think for an offsite facility requires the fire marshal to make the final call.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of certainly an investment of Acasta's time and other resources to figure out whether she wants to engage in that process. So I'd heard that not the last purgatory meeting, but purgatory meeting prior to that, that then if she's in home, she's not within the radius of the project funding, which should be allowed. So.
Yeah, and I've reached out to her to try and touch base and see what her thought process is on whether she plans to maybe engage with the church and see if they could work with her on the window or not. I have yet to hear back from her, but fingers crossed that maybe that does still work out. And then I've also just over the weekend got an email from a couple who are interested in looking to open in-home childcare sometime this fall or early winter. And so I filled them in with some of the questions that they had. They might be sending in an application for this grant as well. And then as for the Deb Meyer and Haley Schuchard, I sent both of them emails saying if they wanted to get their applications back in for the full $9,000 to be approved at this meeting, they have to have been in yesterday, and I didn't get anything. So we just have the two people who have already been, I think Haley was previously approved, Cassie was held off. She was, because it came in right after we got the first children's funding. So it's just Cassie and Haley's grant applications that are on the docket for approval for today's meeting.
I have a question. So do we require receipts or whatever from these people?
Yep. Yep, so it's receipts and then they're reimbursed the funds. It's not all upfront at one time.
So to that point though, because Cassie had asked me about this, like if she gets an invoice from a contractor, like the flooring that she's gonna have. I mean, can she just bring the invoice to the city and they pay it? It's not like she has to pay it and then it gets.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Because otherwise, I mean, I think a lot of the reason they're using these grants.
They don't have.
They don't have the
Yeah,
funds
yeah,
to
no,
pay the
I-
bill.
You can coordinate with that with the time, that's how we do the HVAC grants, we directly pay and sometimes makes it cleaner for us. I can understand with like, $2,500 one-time expense. Yeah, but, yeah. It'll probably get complicated if someone wants to put it on their credit card, so then it's probably easier that way to reimburse them based on that, but a bigger carpet replacement sort of expense, we could just pay the invoice.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of one of the asterisk points in the bottom, was like, other needs can be discussed among the support board for reimbursement or eligibility for use of grant dollars. I would imagine that would also include if it's easier to just pay the vendor through the city as opposed to having I guess, a middle person doing it, so.
Back to Casa, was she needing the $15,000 for other aspects where using that towards the window replacement wasn't an option for her?
Sylvia, who's the licensor, didn't have that insight. She just
Okay.
learned that became a bump, and she said, it's my job to help them with the licensing process. They don't put a metal in their business planning or structure on that, so that just was the first Ben and I heard about that particular bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the only other thing she had mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if she does, based on the conversation Sylvia had with Costas, if that does become a barrier that she can't get past with the church, then she'll plan to just do it at her own home, which is, like you said, outside that 7-mile radius, so.
Is it, sir, or how far is it out?
I don't know. Corey knew their address.
It's on the top of 42, I don't
Right
know,
there, hi, Corey.
yeah, I don't know the exact
Their last name.
address, but I know it's
I was thinking.
it's the second or third house just past Speedlings,
So it's a ways,
That's
it's like
yeah,
8,
so,
9
Like
miles,
half
yeah.
of Plainview.
so.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ridgeway, I think that's a school.
The height of the house, I don't know if it's a house right behind Speedlings or
That is,
that's a,
that's Hawkins, so it must be even the next one.
okay. Yeah, one of those.
I guess maybe another question to pose to the court board too is if that ends up being the case and she's just outside the radius by like a mile or two, maybe with the court board, if it's as much of a need and she's willing to go to whatever cost to open a facility in home care, if you guys would be comfortable voting to do this
10
one
miles.
just outside, yeah, or maybe amend it entirely to be 9 or 10 miles instead of 7 or 4. I guess.
Well, we never defined where the 7 miles was measured from, so I think.
That's true.
Southernmost.
That's, yeah,
I think that's fair. Add to the bottom.
you know, we don't have,
7 miles from Coffeyville or 7 miles.
you know, we don't have like, 14 different people pounding on the doors for this stuff, and I think it's important if we get someone who's ready and willing, we need to really consider that, so.
Yeah,
Let's see if we get any more play on it beforehand, but I'm
okay,
more than willing to.
okay, when I get in touch with her, I'll make sure to let her know all of that and that we can be flexible and working with her as needed.
So we have.
And just one final thing, I'm sure we could find some funding somewhere for window replacement for childcare if it doesn't
Right,
fit here,
probably
so,
grant money or something.
yeah. So she's gotta be willing to overcome that hurdle, and maybe there's other factors.
I was wondering if there might be other factors that we try to.
Yeah, there's a few other resources for grant dollars out there. I've got a whole list put together. So, and I think there's one that comes to mind.
But if the facility is the church and the church is a nonprofit, does that then come into play that they won't qualify for the grant money? Because they're the owner of the building.
Yeah,
Identifies
that's a
as
good
home
question.
improvement,
Yeah,
But
our
also
program identifies
business
these
investment,
home
kind of
improvements,
thing.
yeah.
All right, so we have two items here. We probably should do separate motions on these. So the first one up is Cassie Majeski's grant application for $9,000. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
There you go. Somebody, thank you very much. Do you have a second?
One second.
We have first and second for Cassie's grant application. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, same sign. Let's do the same for Haley Meyer, $9,000 grant application for childcare. Motion to approve.
So
The first, the second,
Second.
the first and the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, same sign.
Same for just a quick note, I see hers is for the upgrading the 3-season porch. We could definitely pay contractors directly with an invoice.
Yeah, right.
So, and with HVAC, Tyler's not move mountains, but we turn around an invoice in 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
we've got a good turnaround.
That's
Keep our
fantastic.
contractors happy working with us.
I just had a question with all of the home daycares. Do they have to change zoning because they're having a business in their home? I know that
Comes under R1.
It does, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I just thought about it too.
All right, so this one is the seated contract for 2023.
Yep. So right now. So Ron, about a month or two back, sent an email of what the new rates for seated contracts would be for each community. We did not include it in last month's board meeting because we wanted to allow Tyler and Caroline to get a little bit further into the budgeting process. About 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, Tyler, Kathy, and I sat down and went through the board's budget and incorporated expected expenses and income up until, I think, May of 2023. And that's, I don't know if it directly reflected what the increase in CEDA's budget would be, but I did some of my own numbers too. And with the increase in CEDA's budget, courts would still have roughly $4,000 left over by the time May of next year comes around. And CEDA's contracts for 2023 will be $40,123.
So what's the contract date? Is it calendar year? Or?
Yeah, calendar year.
So, yeah, some of the challenges we're facing is, so, CEDA contract is about 40,000 and our 2023 levy is 47,689. Plus, if you add what the court pays for staff time, about $15,000, where you are doing some deficit spending currently. And so if we want to continue CEDA services 5 or 6, 7 years into the future, I don't foresee a whole lot of additional revenues coming until we get the barge terminal underway. And I would say that this year, the city of Wabasha is probably counting on this, even the 15,000 from us, because we saw declining revenues in the past. But John and Craig and Mayor Duran could say maybe long-term, that's maybe a way the city participates, is not because we're not spending time on the Port Authority, but as a way to help out so we can continue the CEDA services. So I feel like we've negotiated in the past on the contribution for the Port Authority before CEDA was here and kind of not really knowing our time. And so I'm so happy with the CEDA services. Like, I want to keep them around because I see that it doesn't just, I mean, they have a lot of benefits. So I just think like 2023 is a little rough, but I think we could build in sort of a reduced contribution to the city budget to make sure we're breaking even with what we're bringing in through tax revenue versus what's going out from CETA and other expenses.
It would be a huge step backwards to just continue to see them. I mean,
Mhm.
they're just like such forward motion. They're just a wealth of knowledge and connections to grants and all different things, and it would be just hugely, it'd be bad.
Yeah, you have to have something that's just the board, because you can't expect us to go
Right.
all month and continue on until we have a meeting. So,
Yeah,
is there any way that we can levy from more than 44,000? What are you looking at? I'm just
Can we levy
suggesting,
for
because
more?
it's been that way
Yeah.
for many years.
you know, I've honestly thought, I don't know how we would convince them that we pitch to the city of Kellogg to
Yeah,
provide services to the city of Kellogg, but their taxes are high, but in the past, they've asked, you know, why don't they have access to some of these programs we're running and things, and so I think it has to be done by council resolution, and I think the city of Kellogg council has been difficult to
Yeah.
deal with, but I think, sorry, that was recorded.
nice. That's gonna help us get money, don't they?
Well, I think, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I
Yeah.
think that, Kellogg, Greenfield Township, all those townships and stuff like that, we're gonna probably be looking at them for EMS money.
Mhm.
So maybe there's other ways that we can generate some money for the Port Authority. I agree with you 100%. We cannot go backwards.
No.
This is I mean, I get these emails, it's like, you've gotta be kidding me. It's just like, it's so much going on, it's exhausting. It's incredible, you know?
It's incredible.
And I, looking at the numbers, I mean, we're spending a lot of money too, don't get me wrong, but we are just right up here somewhere, right? And just, all we gotta do is get to the top. And how we get there, I don't know, but, and we can remember this too, you know. If we start to see it's not gonna work, we give a 30-day notice and we don't have to see that anymore. So we have that out, and I don't wanna ever say that or use that as something to rely on. I wanna just continue the relationship as it is. And I think we've got a lot that we can, the three of us that are on council, can talk about at council about maybe deferring what the Port Authority pays to the city for staff. I mean, what we've done in this last year is incredible. You know, what we brought to the city compared to years past, you know. It's been the most active time I've ever experienced. It's just incredible, so. I'm all for agreeing to it and moving on, and we'll figure it out kind of attitude. Probably not the best
Are we
business model,
concerned
but
about a percentage of increase every year? Because was it last year, was it at 35 and then it went up?
It
more
was
than 10?
38.
Oh, it was 38.
yeah, it's
So
close
it went
to
up
37,
10%.
yeah. So I mean, it's not like
Expenses
it's,
going up 10% is normal. I'm new, so I don't know. Is that?
I think given everything else that's going on and staff, the ability to retain staff and attract staff and everything else, I mean,
Okay.
Very
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
and you're been just falling right into place. It's not like, you know, Kathy was exhausting.
Hey, she was my assistant for 17 years, let her off, she can go.
This is something
I
else.
was very impressed.
And the other thing is, I don't know about Ben, but I know Kathy puts in more hours
Yeah,
than we are
I
paying
can
for, which I
imagine.
feel bad.
He's already
for.
so deep into this,
Yes.
you know, he spent way more time.
Yes, so we're kidding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're clearly passionate about this.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
It is.
It's important.
And so I guess Ron's email is in the, agenda, and he's very good at wording things. I learned he was also previously a reporter in some prior life like I was too, so I'm not, after hearing that, I think today actually, I'm not at all surprised, but he lays out pretty well. I think he answers your question, Mary, of there is a percent increase every year.
Okay.
They are continuously looking for donors to help be able to offset those increases on a yearly basis. I think their overall goal, I believe, is to try and keep them around 5% every year. And that'll ultimately change very year to year, but on average about 5%.
Just so we can plan ahead then too.
Yeah.
All right, so before us, we have an action item to approve the 2023 seated contract. Any other discussion or entertain a motion to approve or go from there? We don't want to fail for lack of a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue on the season.
All right, so we have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion with respect to this? It's a big chunk of money on an annual basis and we don't have any money. I get it. But we're finding money that I can't believe that we've not searched and gotten before. So,
And they've been a huge help with that.
what?
And they've been a huge help with that.
Right?
So,
I mean, everything about it. So we have a first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. There you go.
I don't have a voice, I didn't want to say anything in your discussion, but can I just add something? I wonder if we can look for opportunities that align with the court strategic priorities where there is the ability to pay for some of the administration of the work. When we start talking about a land boost grant that we're gonna apply for, and this to some $50,000, one of the ideas that Kathy has is that it developed in some part pays for the plan associated with the business. There was a particular item that was on the strategic plan for. So picking from that very nice strategic document you have and thinking, how do we fund that with the funds that we do available? How do we fund the time that it takes for CETA staff or other development staff, extension or others to get that work done for the city? Because it's not going to do itself. It's not going to happen on its own.
Right. That's exactly, that's good.
If we're all thinking that way, and Caroline and I, we just, light bulb just went on for us about 9 months ago, like, we need to be paying ourselves to make this, to execute these programs. That's how it works. So I was frustrated with the news about the state not wanting to pay that, but if we can try to think that way and build that into the budgets, wherever we're looking for money, that might be a strategy just to
That's a good idea.
address the annual increase that we know is going to be there.
Very good. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Housing.
Last month at the end of the month, Wednesday and Thursday, the 27th and 28th of July, we had our second Minnesota Housing Institute workshop. And this time it was Jessua Meg, whatever her last name is. I don't even know her last name.
Damage Tucker.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Yeah, I just call her Meg. Kathy Anderson, Tyler, and myself in attendance. It's a really, there's a lot packed into that day and a half. We go on Wednesday from 4 until 8, and then on Thursday from 9 until 3. We had some excellent speakers. We had some, lunch one-on-one with some people that had some great ideas for us. I mean, I feel like we walked away with a lot of information. One thing that we worked on, we have little assignments, is we worked on our elevator speech. And when people ask us, what is WATCH? How do we describe it? What's our mission? What are we after? And then the result of that was the press release that we saw in the paper. So that was great. And, get people talking, get people, we've kind of decided that, the best way to get people on board is to make them a part of it, right? So that what really irritates people, I think, is when they're not in the know and they just hear about it after decisions have been made and things have been happening, because I think people really want to be a part of it. So that's really what our goal is. So then we came back and had our committee meeting that first Wednesday of the month. So what was that? August 3rd. And we talked to the rest of the committee about what we learned. And then we decided to approach landowners about, who would potentially be willing to talk to builders and developers about, making their land available. And I have to tell you, Dave, that one of my people was Dan Miller, and he was very interested. Yeah. So, and it's funny because he did say, I said, we know people on the board thought you'd be dead set against it, Dan. And he said, well, because I've been approached before for a solar field and I have no desire to have a solar field there. But he said, absolutely, if the developer wants to talk to me about that, and that's 20 acres. So, anyway, so, we just decided that each of us took a couple of names of people we were comfortable going to approach. And so we're just moving forward. I feel like at a pretty good pace. I feel like when we have those meetings, we really are getting stuff done, having good conversations. So I'm super excited about the way it's going.
Get one like that, that
Yeah.
would take us about 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, if you
With
get 20
Fitzgerald,
acres.
And then
wow.
work on it next,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Because we
a
don't want them all at
strategic,
once.
that's a strategic spot too.
Right.
Yeah,
So I'm just super excited about the way it's going, and I think Kathy's energy is definitely pushing us forward, there's no doubt about it. And she keeps me on task, that girl is texting me all day and night. And did you see this article that went down? But yeah, she's awesome, and no, it's good, and I think we have a really good mix of people on our committee, we get a really good turnout at our meetings, people really open up and share. I think it's going very well.
yeah, a really broad group of people, like this, really, really very good.
And then as a result of the article, we got an interested community member that wants to join and
Actually, I've had a couple of people reach out to me, so that's
Great.
awesome. And then, yeah, so KK, that's who you're talking about, and so Kathy and I actually are gonna meet with her Thursday, or no, someday this week. And, but I wanted to say that Kathy has also submitted a grant for, housing needs study.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and it has been, approved, so, yeah.
so yeah, I just kind of wanted to highlight that on our website, we now released the RFP for the housing market analysis is up there, and that's paid for with this grant that's there. And then the news item that we're launching, the Watch Housing Committee is there. And then the second grant. And I'm sorry, I gave us this very retro logo because I was just tired of. So, it says Wabasha Port Authority since
It's
2005.
It's also my page, I'm sorry, I'm sending it to you today. Retro Zen, okay.
I was just like, oh, we need something, and like, sun, we really like, I've seen port authorities where it's like a giant, like, office building is their logo, which isn't what we're going for. And I think it's hard to make like clip out housing look attractive. I love the Wabasha thing. I think that's really nice,
That's
designed
It
by.
took my marketing guy like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
was
I
at
mean,
the
I
meeting
just
and I texted him.
love the eagle, and then Watch is with, so maybe we can ask your guy, could you?
He'd be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put him in touch.
We could just put like Port Authority and, I don't know, yeah.
I like your part where you all
Okay, we'll stick with that one. Because actually that fit well, because we were talking about childcare, so like just a house doesn't represent
Right. No,
the
yeah,
other
Port Authority is so
components
much
of
more.
so a sun does. So a sun and river and, all right, so,
So it's not a toll
yeah, so, and then like our Facebook page, we try to promote Port Authority there. So I like doing the media releases. We were double on the Winona Post, so I'm like, I've never, because it's hard. I mean, I was like, wow, people in Winona are gonna be like, what is up in
Yeah, good.
I
the
guess
Winona
so.
Post
Yeah.
very nicely reprints whatever I send them, so,
It's great.
Yeah, right.
but,
Just to go back to Dan Miller, that 20 acres,
Been thinking about that.
I think it is. It's all mapped for like roads and everything.
There's water.
There's
Yeah,
water,
absolutely.
sewer.
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah,
all there.
Yeah, it's there.
that's the land next to the
Behind the
campground,
hotel, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's
garbage.
This way.
this way,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You
Next to the
you
camp.
pointed that out to me,
That's
I
like-
think, on my first tour.
Well,
It's just right.
If somebody do a supplement drawing, connect the 14th.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to have somewhat of a plan as to
Yes.
what it would look like. Somebody get a plan.
I think the comprehensive plan has got some
Yeah.
sketches or something.
I think he had some
He has
sketches.
sketches done, that's why it was done that way, yeah, he was just waiting.
Because were you on the Port Authority there, or planning commission when we were doing all that, or?
I don't know if him, but I remember when we were talking about how would we expand the city?
Yeah,
And that came up right away, and
Yeah.
that's why there's a street platted through there.
yep. And we, yeah, the whole issue with, making sure that that 17th or whatever it was kept going.
Yeah, 14.
14th,
yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And enough to get to the jail, so there's
Right.
room to develop all the way to. Yeah.
Sidewalks to the gym.
Yeah, he had initially thought he wanted to keep it just in case when he would sell the campground someday, it might make it more appealing, but he said, nah, I mean, people like what I have here. He goes, I'm all ears, just send somebody wants to talk to me about it, send them over. So I was happy.
Well, I think that's fantastic,
Great.
and it's a great way to end the meeting.
Oh, wait, I
I've
have
got-
something, I have
You
an
got stuff?
announcement.
Some
I have an
directors
Look
announcement.
at all.
and other.
Just a quick thing, I did include it in the agenda because it wasn't anything discussed at the last meeting. But a couple of weeks ago, the child care committee got together. We discussed the potential of applying for the child care economic development grant. Essentially, we came to the consensus that while on paper, Wabasha would be a pretty strong applicant for this grant at the county level. Beneath the surface, the additional infrastructure partnerships and collaborations aren't quite there yet to make us like an over the top application. So we essentially just decided we're gonna pass on this round of this grant application, wait for it to open up again next year, and then in the meantime, start working on getting those necessary pieces in together, because that could be up to $150,000 for one single project, for a childcare project in Wabasha. So if we can get all the right pieces in place within the next year, Wabasha would be likely in a much stronger place to apply for that grant, along with other stuff that's out there to source for funding and do maybe more larger scale pod center, or something that can house more than just the efforts of already getting in-home childcare. So that's something that was discussed as well, and I just wanted to let you guys know about that too.
Okay, thank you.
I have an announcement.
Yeah.
I'm having, Wabash Main Street is inviting them to speak at the morning coffee, so everybody's invited. Next Thursday, we're having cinnamon rolls at the Anderson House, so please come. It's 8 to 9 a.m. next Thursday.
Yeah.
I hope you are invited.
This Thursday?
Next Thursday,
Next
the 25th. And Mayor Emily Durant is going to talk a little bit about the blend and grant that she's
Do you
working
need to
on.
Usually not.
There might be one short. I think we dropped one off at the bank. It's also a thank you to our planter sponsors. So you guys can share one. But we talked about doing it right away when Ben came to town with the chamber, and then there's been some transition. So Wabasha Main Street is trying to do some quarterlies just to get the word out about how all this working together. The Ports Project, the City Project, the CETA projects, Main Street projects. Everybody's writing grants. Like you said, it's very exciting. I'm writing a grant too. So I don't know where if we can piggyback on each other or share resources or whatever, but this is the time to just have a cup of coffee and chat.
Fantastic.
And talk about all the fun things that are in the works.
In the works, and 2023 is gonna be just really busy and torn up.
I did have Tyler put together some numbers, and the Port Authority invested $160,000 in local businesses and loans alone.
Wow,
That's really good.
impressive.
That's huge.
That's so impressive.
Are you, that's over the last,
Oh, this year, this
Just this
year.
year.
12 months, yeah.
we didn't do that in 5 years. I guess it's- Very good. Anything else from anybody?
If I can interject, I visited the corner port. on East End.
Yep.
Yeah, I took some pictures, and, as a last resort, if we don't get, the Taj Mahal built, this is the clear, solution, what they have down there. I have some pictures that explains it very easily, what they did at a minimum cost, right on the Mississippi, shows the barge and how it's moored. I was very impressed.
I'm gonna go see it on Monday morning.
Where is this? Dave?
Whereabouts is it?
Where is this? Dave?
It's,
So if you go down Mankato towards the river,
Oh,
just keep going, you'll end up going over the tracks, and it's there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
what's on that end?
That's on the east end.
East end.
They have two. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one. That's their, the west end. But this is at, their barge goes interactable, but it's there now on the east end. Yeah, I was very
So
impressed.
just,
That's all.
yeah, just to connect the dots, our plan is to wait and see if we get grant funding to
Right.
build the
And-
barge terminal that we had planned for, and if we don't, I think then we're looking at reducing the scope of what we're building, and I
Yeah.
think that's where what this looks like comes in play and, so I'm glad you got to see it. I'm gonna go see it Monday.
Yeah,
Are you talking about the one in Winona?
yeah,
Yeah,
there's actually two, it's one on Easton.
yeah, I drove past it every day for like 5 years.
Well, you have to go.
Right,
I was-
That's the one on the west.
That's on-
This one, you have to kind of go in there, but I was ready to let them know who it was, because they were all looking at me.
Mhm.
I didn't care. You just look like you know what you're.
I did, yeah, I just wanted
Where you belong.
to. I know, well, John's wrong, I had all the names, just in case.
Mayor, do you want to update people on the Blandon invite?
Sure, so I just sent a confusing, it was the best I could do at this stage. We learned about an opportunity to, for an award for cities under 10,000, that the Blandon Foundation is creating to develop more leadership capacity, to sort of revive the leadership capacity in small communities and generating leadership capacity after all the upheaval of the last 2.5 years. So I thought right away, we can do this, we're doing it right now, we're trying to get people back in the community, I think of 15 ideas of how that would look, Mary came to another 40, so I wrote a letter of intent that basically said that we want to get people back in the community to identify projects and process and planning that needs to be done to make sure that we're resilient for the future, and we want to establish a second cohort of Blandon attendees of the leadership program. And the only mystery out there, and I didn't call you because I just talked to you, is I don't know who's involved in selecting Blandon or nominating Blandon participants.
There's a process, they'll tell you, yeah,
Okay,
we
I
all
learned.
make application and then there's a team, a local team that selects. Because more than,
More than
20,
40 wouldn't.
yeah,
no.
how many applied, 12 and 12, more than
Yeah.
24 applied. So we had a local team that weeded through the applicants.
Okay, so I can talk to you about that. I want to build that into the actual grant because I know that's what they want. I know they want further capacity and they know that their program works. So it's a little open at this point. Both Tony and Bev emailed me and said, so is this for a real project or something that would come out of this process? And I said, well, both. It could be an aspect of a project that's already in the works, but then this becomes a sort of a matching fund that sees that project. I think what they're also really after is the actual engagement of individuals in this process, in these community engaged planning processes. And so it could be consultancy with extension of other professionals to work on planning for initiatives that are desired by the community. So I'm going to write it kind of open like that. I'm going to say that we're going to achieve one to two larger projects, and the definition of large will be very big because we can figure that out for ourselves. And then that it would fund another 2 to 10 small projects or planning processes that would be community engaged. We got all the Blandon lingo. Well, I've never heard the word Blandonite, which is what Ben refers to himself as. We say Blandon buddies, but there are 24 of us all working in community. Only Rolf and Kim and Carolyn are not here anymore. Everyone else is still actively working in some kind of a role. And so I listed a lot of us in sort of a planning capacity. We'll see what that ultimate community looks like that really gets us off the ground. And we'll have to establish a process, much like your grant process, your revolving loan process, although it really needs to involve a lot of community stakeholders, so that the city isn't funding its own stuff. But we're envisioning that the city be the fiscal agent. I'm going to talk to Karen and Tyler a little bit more about that tomorrow. But I don't know if there's implications about how we would expend those funds. And I'm guessing of all the entities that work with Blandon, probably one of the easier ones because they understand the infrastructure capacity limits. So I'm looking for letters of support. I'm trying to hope for one from Robin, and then going to hope for one from Port Authority, Grace going to one from Main Street. Susan, because she's done a community engagement project as an artist. We'll look for one from the Eagle Center. I'd love to get one from the library just because they represent a really unique aspect of what cities do for community. A bunch of them. RDAC. Yeah, so
Can you mention a couple of projects that we had brainstormed, or are those not going to be named
well,
specifically?
Kathy identified because she knew me, but I know a whole bunch of other ones too. I mean, aspects of the relocation of the athletic fields could really get enhanced by this kind of, in community engaged process, because I know that it's going to require a community engaged process to get those facilities up and going. The question is it going to be supported by some funding, or is it just, or personnel, or is it just going to be, organic? And some processes are better off organic because they don't really need planning or funding money or funding. But there is a mural desired on the open space. Eagle Center brought it up early on, way back, that there would need to be some beautification of those private buildings. But in their process and with the restrictions on bond monies, they couldn't touch anybody's private property. So, they sort of planted that seed in the business owners' brains, and George Hill had expressed interest in, he's working with some money on a concept right now. So I asked Sue if she would do that in a community engaged fashion, because that is such a public space, and she said, oh, absolutely, and that's the way the one facing the library, she would do a similar process. She can justify, she can explain how many hours would be involved, and we could articulate the in-kind on that. So that would be an example one that we could add to our narrative, whether that ultimately gets funded that way, or whether Mary finds money for it through some other avenue. It doesn't really matter. At the table, or we know who knows, then we can bring those in to make these processes functional. So
We've been talking about that alley for 20 years,
Yeah.
so it'd be nice to see.
it
something
sure
like
will.
that.
Just the concrete back there was awesome.
Doesn't
Yeah,
Yes.
It's just,
we leveraged what we thought was a good use of the congressional earmark dollars to make sure that festival lighting actually happens.
Yep.
Because if you left that to individuals, it can't happen. It had to happen appropriate, and thanks to Brian Mullen for bringing that up. That had been whittled off the plan, due budget, and he said, it's not that much to get that back on.
Do you see the research and planning behind like a business competition?
That was the one that Catherine mentioned could be a rationale for us not applying for a whole bunch of money, but starting with 50,000 and showing that we can execute something, and then asking for some of these larger sums later on.
So yeah, part of it, I thought we had discussed some planning from CETA to say, how would we execute like a business competition, like other communities have done, to draw a restaurateur to Wabasha. And I don't quite understand the concept, but Ben does, and Pam does.
Yeah, well, my son was.
Red Wing did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Our son that was the recipient of the restaurant check.
Okay, restaurant challenge, but I think said it needs some research and thought before you just launch
yeah,
a
yeah.
restaurant challenge.
No, Redmond,
So-
Redmond has, and there's a lot of players involved in that.
Okay.
A lot of.
And there's examples to draw from communities our size.
So I thought that's definitely within the port strategic plan,
Yeah.
you know, so.
I saw Ron has already got back with the, letter of support from APSCA, so,
Great.
I'll get mine into you
Sounds great.
this week too.
that's huge. I think it's, again. Never knew it, now 2,500.
We're
Yeah.
like,
Right?
we're striking out on huge sums of money for the Department of Transportation from our highway project. But I think we've been successful with the smaller grants. I was reading the paper and Rochester got like a huge DOT thing to build this huge thing. So I think,
That's because they've been planning for 25 years. It's
Yeah.
part of a process that narrows the competition down to only them.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and they
Yeah.
leverage it with the DMC and everything else, so.
so we are in the seed planting process, but I was thinking this morning that if we can pursue some other housing opportunities that don't require rerouting an entire highway, I think we could see some earlier wins as we continue to plan for the reroute, you know? So, I think it's a huge win that the city now has funding to move the athletic field. So now we take one step, but I'm struggling to find highway money, which is frustrating, but I think the time is gonna come. I just think that they haven't trickled down the infrastructure dollars to our level. Yeah.
Can I go back to that athletic field? Have you guys all been down to Kellogg since they put their new?
Mhm.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah.
And I mean, all those
Sponsors.
signs, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't see the sponsor thing. I
Oh,
have to
yeah.
go see that.
Every 6 foot length of chain link is a banner.
Oh.
And
I
I don't
remember
remember
that.
how much we paid for those, maybe 500, I don't know. I mean, to be a sponsor, not.
It's like
you know.
nominal for
Yeah.
what it gets.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But if you add them up, that's
It's
a lot of money.
I know.
Yeah. I
That's a
mean,
lot of fun,
Yeah.
They
Have all
did
the
a
sponsors
great
like
job, and it just makes it feel old school.
right?
Feel, yeah, I love it.
Okay. It reminds me, we just have to
And
follow
for City
up.
Hall, kickball game.
Is there anything else? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn. don't drink it once.
But
Oh,
we're having too much fun.
I know, right?
yeah, and it's only 6:25.
We're getting very efficient.